She pressed her lips to his ear and whispered, "Stay with me forever." Her voice was silk, her touch electric. Malik shivered. The woman before him was breathtaking, smooth dark skin, hypnotic eyes, curves that made his pulse race. But something was wrong. The village of Lusala was too perfect. The women, too beautiful. The men, too broken. Malik had come searching for truth. Instead, he found a secret no man was meant to survive. And now, it was too late to leave. The rumors began in a dimly lit tavern, whispered between mouthfuls of palm wine. Lusala, a hidden village deep beyond the known roads, where men vanished and the women were said to be more than human. "No man who enters ever returns the same," Django, an elder, warned. His voice wavered as he traced a shaking finger along Malik's wrist. "If he returns at all." Malik didn't scare easily. He was a journalist, a seeker of truths, and Lusala was a mystery begging to be uncovered. A paradise where men lost themselves. He had to know why. For days he traveled. First by road, then by paths that turned to dust, then into the wilderness where even the birds refused to sing. Villagers along the way refused to speak of Lusala. Some turned their backs. Some whispered quick prayers. Some shut their doors. The farther he went, the heavier the air became, thick with something unseen, something that made his skin tingle. The nights were restless. The shadows too long. The silence too perfect. Then one evening, as he reached the edge of a dense jungle, the mist rolled in. Thick, silver, moving like a living thing. Malik's breath hitched. He stepped forward, the mist swirling around his legs, pulling him in. And then, the mist parted. Lusala stood before him. It was beautiful. The sun bathed the village in gold, casting warm light over vibrant markets, laughing children, music, then firelight. The scent of roasted meat and ripe fruit filled the air. Then he saw the women. They were like goddesses. Their skin flawless, their curves hypnotic, their eyes dark pools of secrets. Not a single wrinkle. Not a single gray hair. They moved with a grace that made Malik's breath catch. And then he saw the men. Bent backs. Wrinkled faces. Empty eyes. They did not laugh. They did not speak. They only watched. A woman, more stunning than the rest, stepped forward. Her full lips curled into a knowing smile as she reached for his hand. "Welcome," she purred, her fingers warm against his skin. "We've been waiting for you." Malik hesitated. Something inside him screamed, "Turn back." But when she pulled him closer, her perfume intoxicating, her body pressed against his. He let her. Malik's heart pounded as the woman led him through Lusala. Her fingers, soft and warm, traced lazy circles on his wrist, sending a shiver up his spine. The village was alive with color, music, and laughter. Women in flowing garments swayed their hips as they walked, their voices like honey dripping into the air. But the men. They sat in silence, eyes dull, hands resting limply in their laps. A stark contrast to the radiant, mesmerizing women who thrived around them. Malik swallowed hard. Something was off. "You must be tired," the woman said, her voice like a slow melody. "Come, let us take care of you." He didn't resist as she led him inside a grand hut, where soft cushions and rich fabrics covered the floor. Another woman approached, her dark skin glowing under the lantern light. "You are special," she whispered, tracing a single finger down his chest. "Lusala chooses who enters." Malik exhaled shakily. A part of him wanted to push away, but another part, one he barely recognized, wanted to sink into her warmth. The first woman, the one who had led him in, smiled knowingly. "We will make you feel like a king." A hand pressed against his chest. Lips ghosted over his jaw. The scent of jasmine filled his lungs. And for a moment Malik forgot the silent, hollow-eyed men outside. For a moment he forgot to be afraid. But then, a sudden chill crept over his skin. The door to the hut was still open. And through it he saw an old man staring at him. Wrinkled, frail, his lips barely moving as he whispered something Malik couldn't hear. But his eyes were screaming. Malik sat frozen, his breath shallow as the old man's eyes bore into him. The women around him whispered soft temptations, their fingers tracing over his skin, but his mind had latched onto that haunting stare. He pushed the woman's hand away, standing abruptly. "Who is that man?" His voice came out hoarse, but steady. The women exchanged quick glances, their smiles never fading but their bodies tensing. "No one," the first woman purred, reaching for him again. "Don't trouble yourself with ghosts." But Malik stepped back. The chill in his bones deepened. The old man at the door was gone. Had he imagined it? No. Something was wrong with Lusala. The laughter outside, the dancing, the music, it all felt too perfect. Manufactured, like a performance designed to keep him distracted. Malik hurried outside, ignoring the women's protests. The night air was thick and humid, yet his skin prickled as if touched by frost. The village was alive. Torches flickered, casting golden light over the women who moved like living goddesses, their silk garments clinging to them as they twirled, their laughter laced with something intoxicating. But then his gaze fell on the men. Bent over, unmoving, their hollow eyes reflecting the fire's glow. Not one of them spoke. Not one of them smiled. Malik walked toward them, but as he did, he noticed something chilling. They were all the same age. Elderly, frail, bodies wasting away, yet their faces were eerily similar, as if they had all grown old at the exact same rate. His pulse quickened. Something about this place. Something about the women. A hand suddenly grabbed his wrist, strong, desperate. Malik turned sharply to see an old man, skin thin as parchment, his fingers digging into Malik's flesh. "Run." The word barely left his lips, the ghost of a sound, but Malik heard it clearly. "Leave before the well takes you." Malik's stomach twisted. "What well?" The man opened his mouth to answer. But a sharp gasp cut the air. Malik turned to see one of the women standing just behind them. Her expression was unreadable, but her dark eyes locked onto the old man with quiet menace. "You should not be speaking to our guest." The old man trembled violently, his grip loosening. Malik barely had time to react before two more women appeared, their movements fluid, their hands gentle as they guided the man away. Or rather, dragged him. The old man's lips moved, silent words slipping from his tongue, but his eyes never left Malik. Then he was gone, swallowed by the shadows. A shiver raced down Malik's spine. What was happening here? "Come," a woman cooed, stepping close. Her scent of jasmine wrapped around him like a net. "Let's not spoil the night." Malik barely heard her. His gaze had landed on something in the distance. A well. Tall, ancient, standing in the heart of the village. The well the old man had warned him about. Malik's pulse hammered as he stared at the well. It stood in the heart of Lusala, ancient and imposing, its stone walls covered in intricate carvings. The torches around it cast flickering shadows, making it seem almost alive. The old man's words echoed in his mind, "Leave before the well takes you." But Malik didn't leave. He couldn't. Not until he knew the truth. The women surrounded him, their movements slow and deliberate, their eyes watching him too closely. "Come back inside," one of them whispered, pressing her soft body against his arm. "There's no need to worry about old stories." Malik forced a smile, his muscles tense beneath her touch. "I just need a little air." He took a step toward the well. The women's smiles faltered. Another step. The music behind him seemed to slow, the laughter quieting. They don't want me near it. He walked faster. The moment he reached the edge, a gust of cold air rose from its depths, cutting through the humid night. Malik peered inside darkness. Endless, suffocating darkness. The air smelled different here, thick with something metallic. His skin crawled. What is inside? You shouldn't be here. Malik turned sharply. One of the men had moved, the first time he'd seen one do anything other than sit in silence. He was old, frail, but his sunken eyes held a flicker of strength. Malik stepped closer. What is this place? The man's lips trembled. He glanced toward the women who were now walking toward them, slow but purposeful. The well it gives. His voice cracked. But it also takes. A chill ran through Malik. What do you mean? The old man's throat bobbed as he swallowed. The women of Lusala, they drink from it. He grabbed Malik's wrist, his grip weak but insistent. The well keeps them young. It steals time from others, from us. Malik's stomach twisted. The women weren't aging. But the men. He thought back to the old newspapers, the missing travelers. Men who had come here and never left. Because they couldn't. Suddenly, hands touched his shoulders, soft, yet strong. Come away from there, Malik. He turned. The women had surrounded him, their gazes calm, their smiles unwavering. You've learned too much. The old man's grip on him tightened. Run. Malik barely had time to react before two women lunged for him. He ripped free, shoving past them, his heart pounding as he sprinted through the village. Behind him, the music had stopped. The laughter had died. And the women, they were coming after him. Malik's breath burned in his chest as he ran. The village was no longer the paradise it had seemed, it was a trap. The laughter was gone, the music silenced. The only sound was the soft patter of bare feet behind him, growing faster, closer. The women of Lusala weren't running. They were gliding. Their movements were eerily smooth, their glowing skin untouched by the effort of the chase. Malik, one of them called, her voice honeyed but hollow. You can stay. We'll take care of you. He didn't look back. He couldn't. He knew what staying meant. Ahead, the thick mist began to swirl again, shifting like a living thing. The border of Lusala. If he could make it past the fog, maybe, he could escape. A sudden weight crashed against his back. He hit the ground hard, dust and pain exploding in his vision. Hands, soft, warm, wrapped around his wrists, his ankles. Shoo, the woman whispered, brushing her lips against his ear. The well is kind. It gives so much. And it only asks for time in return. Malik thrashed. No. The old man's words came back to him, run. Adrenaline surged. He twisted, kicking hard, breaking free. His hands clawed at the dirt, pushing himself up. The well loomed in the distance, glowing under the moonlight. And now he understood. It was a curse. A prison. A trap. Malik sprinted toward the mist. The village behind him erupted in whispers, not voices, but something deeper. A hum in the air, a pulse that pressed against his skull. His vision blurred. His body screamed. But he kept running. The fog wrapped around him, thick and suffocating. For a moment, he felt weightless, like the world itself had disappeared. Then, a gasp. A breath. The scent of damp earth. Malik stumbled forward. He was out. The mist was behind him. The village, gone. Nothing remained but the silent jungle. He fell to his knees, chest heaving, sweat dripping from his skin. His hands trembled as he reached into his pocket. The notebook was still there. The proof. Lusala was real. But some places should stay lost.